The year I had the worst quarrel with Traitorous. All the things in the house were smashed by us. We cursed at each other and hysterically wished ill on each other. But on the eve of our divorce, he suddenly seemed like a different person, asking me to forgive him once and promising that he would never make me sad again. In the following 3 years, he indeed kept his word. However, on the day Backstabber got divorced, I heard him say, "You asked me to listen to you and not get a divorce. But what about you?" Backstabber was going through a divorce. I was worried that no one would pick up Daisy after school, so I rushed over as soon as I got off work. Unexpectedly, Traitorous was even more eager than me. I was just about to raise my hand to call him when I saw Traitorous holding Daisy's hand and talking on the phone. Not noticing me at all. "I listened to you and didn't get a divorce. But what about you? Look at you like this. I regret it. Do you know that?" I stopped in my tracks. Who was Traitorous talking to on the phone? What did he mean by not wanting a divorce? What was he regretting? While I was stunned, I saw Traitorous drive away with Daisy in the car. In the next 2 hours, I called Traitorous several times. But the line was always busy. I was a bit uneasy because of those 2 sentences from Traitorous. Whose words did Traitorous listen to 3 years ago, and didn't want to get a divorce? What was he regretting now? Was he regretting not getting a divorce from me? Who was on the other end of the phone? Was it Backstabber? I found Backstabber's phone number. After hesitating for a while, I gritted my teeth and dialed. "The number you have dialed is busy." My hands couldn't help shaking. I was still a bit dazed until I got home. Backstabber was my classmate and good friend. We went to the same university and got married in the same year. In the year when I had the worst quarrel with Traitorous. She had cried with me, scolded with me, and even went to see Traitorous several times alone for my sake. I was proud to have such a good friend. But today, I seemed to find something was wrong. Looking back on these 3 years, Traitorous not only remembered all my anniversaries but also knew all my preferences clearly. Even last time, on my birthday, he gave me a Hermes bag that was 3 years old. I had been sorry for a while because this bag couldn't be bought anymore. I had only told Backstabber about this. But unexpectedly, I received that bag soon. Traitorous 3 years ago was not like this. He was never a careful person. Could it be that all the gifts Traitorous gave me in these 3 years were deliberately arranged by another woman? Just thinking of this, I suddenly felt extremely disgusted. "Are you off work? Wash your hands and come at dinner." I blinked. I didn't expect Traitorous to be at home. "What's wrong? Not feeling well?" A warm palm pressed against me. I don't know why. It was a very ordinary action. But I couldn't help flinching. Traitorous frowned. "What's wrong?" I looked at the man in front of me seriously. Now he was extremely considerate to me. Even when I was on my period, he would wash my clothes because he didn't want me to touch cold water. Such a him. Was he really willing to do these things for me? Or was it because he was obedient? Obedient to someone else's words. "How's Backstabber's divorce going?" I suddenly asked. Backstabber's husband had a history of domestic violence and liked to beat her every time he drank. She had endured it for 3 years and finally made up her mind to get a divorce. And Traitorous was Backstabber's attorney. "It's still in progress." Traitorous didn't say much. I paused. "What about the child? Who will get the custody?" "Of course it will be Backstabber. Isn't that obvious?" Traitorous's tone became a bit impatient. "But Backstabber hasn't had a job since she got married. It's hard for the child to be awarded to her after the divorce. Right?" Bang. Traitorous put down the bowl in his hand forcefully. "She's your friend. Shouldn't you think of her good side?" I looked at him in confusion. Just as I was about to speak, I saw him stand up, pick up his coat, and start changing his shoes. "There's still something to do at the company. I'll be back later." Looking at the closed door, I came back to my senses. I couldn't help thinking. Was there something wrong with what I said just now? Was it worth Traitorous getting so angry? Traitorous left before finishing his meal. I was so angry that I couldn't eat either. Thinking about Traitorous's strangeness today, I still couldn't help going out and taking a taxi to Traitorous's company. The office building was quiet. The security guard knew me and said there was no one upstairs. I didn't believe it. Traitorous clearly said he was coming to work overtime. I said I wanted to go up and take a look, and the security guard easily let me into the company. But when I got out of the elevator and saw the closed glass door, my heart couldn't help sinking. There was no one in the company at all. Traitorous really lied. I took a deep breath and turned around to take a taxi to Backstabber's house. Indicator saw me and thought I came because of his divorce from Backstabber. He silently let me in. "Where's Backstabber?" I asked. "Didn't she say she was going to see you?" Vindicator looked at me in confusion. My heart sank. Traitorous lied. He lied to me and said he was at the company. Backstabber also said she was going to see me and wasn't at home at all. Afraid that Vindicator would immediately contact Backstabber to ask where she was, I quickly said, "Are you really going to divorce Backstabber?" Indicator thought I came specifically to persuade Backstabber on his behalf. I really didn't beat her. I just pushed her when we were arguing. And every time she's the one who starts the trouble. She said I'm useless. That I don't earn as much as Traitorous. And that I'm not as considerate as Traitorous. You tell me. She knew my salary was like this before we got married. If she dislikes me, she shouldn't have married me. Why is she suddenly holding on to this issue? And she always compares me to your Traitorous. My mind went blank. It was as if something had suddenly been settled. I went downstairs in a daze and stood blankly downstairs in the community. I suddenly remembered a year ago. It was Backstabber's 28th birthday. I thought I should at least give a precious gift to show my sincerity. So I went to a gold store and bought a bracelet. But when I brought the bracelet home, I saw a gift box on the table. And inside was a Hermes silk scarf. Traitorous said to me, "Wife, this was given by our business partner. See if you like it. If you don't like it, you can give it to someone else." Since the silk scarf happened to be in the color that Backstabber liked, I gave that silk scarf to Backstabber. After that, I often saw Backstabber wearing it. I thought it was because I gave it to her. So Backstabber always wore it. But now that I think about it, was that really the case? Moreover, was that silk scarf really given by the business partner? Was it really such a coincidence that it was exactly the color Backstabber liked? And Traitorous was really good to Daisy. Once, Backstabber and I took Daisy to an amusement park. Traitorous came over after work, and he was holding 3 taro-flavored ice creams in his hand. I don't like taro flavor. I only like vanilla flavor. And taro flavor happened to be the flavor that Backstabber always liked. Also, hadn't so my obsession. When we went out for dinner together occasionally, Traitorous would always specifically tell the waiter not to put coriander. I thought it was because he valued my friend and it was because of me. I even secretly rejoiced about this and specifically told Backstabber about it. Now that I think about it, Backstabber seemed to just give me a meaningful look at that time and then replied, "Traitorous is so good to you." There were countless similar things. Many things seem normal when you don't think in that direction. But once you suddenly figure it out, you will feel that everything is wrong. But it was so late. Where could Traitorous be? Where should I go to find him? Why did he lie to me? Why? Why did Backstabber lie too? Since they lied, they must be doing something shady. Suddenly, I thought of a place. I took a taxi to the apartment I bought before getting married. A year ago, Traitorous told me that this house was just sitting there unused. So it would be better to rent it out. Since Traitorous said it was rented by a colleague from his company, I rented it out at a price 10 lower than the market rate. Since then, the rent has been credited to my account on time every month, and I have never come to take a look. The elevator door opened, and I walked step by step to the door of room 2008. On the shoe rack at the door, there were several pairs of shoes. Unfortunately, had I fulfilled my orsay, 2 of the pairs of men's shoes were bought by me, and the only pair of women's shoes I was also very familiar with. I had seen Backstabber wear this pair of shoes. I stared fixedly at the shoes at the door, and tears couldn't help falling. "Traitorous! How dare you!" I raised my hand to knock on the door, but when I saw the peephole on the door, I stopped. I turned around and went to the electrical room next to the elevator and pulled down the circuit breaker. Soon, when out a low sigh, I heard movement inside. "Don't come out yet. Let me see if the circuit breaker tripped. When he saw me at the door, Traitorous's voice suddenly stopped. What's wrong? I'll go with you. The woman behind him had just stuck her head out. But Traitorous subconsciously blocked her back. In front of me was a man wearing only a shirt. And a woman wearing a bathrobe. Phoenix. Listen to me. I pushed Traitorous aside and threw the bag in my hand at Backstabber. Why? 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 The bag hit Backstabber in the face. And she let out a scream and took a few steps back. This woman, whom I valued more than my husband, was actually with him. How dare they? Phoenix. Stop. Traitorous hugged my waist and tried to pull me back. I turned around and slapped him hard in the face. Get lost. Anger flared in Traitorous's eyes. That's enough. Screw you. I threw the bag in my hand at him. Traitorous could only raise his hand to block it. Phoenix. Listen to me. Don't be impulsive. Backstabber reached out to pull me. But I slapped her hard to the ground. I almost used all my strength for this slap. Backstabber. I regarded you as my best friend. And you slept with my man? Are you even human? Are you? My eyes were bloodshot. I grabbed Backstabber's hair and dragged her forward, then slammed her head against the table leg. Phoenix. Are you crazy? I was pushed hard. Before I could react, my face hurt. With a slap, my face stung. Traitorous's eyes were bloodshot. And he actually slapped me viciously. I covered my face in disbelief. But he looked at me with pain in his eyes and then helped Backstabber up. Traitorous. Don't worry about me. You went out a while sigh. Go and see Phoenix. How could you hit someone? Hurry. Go and apologize to Phoenix. I saw Traitorous holding Backstabber. But Backstabber pushed him away with all her might. Traitorous, who had been glaring at me furiously before, paused for a moment and actually walked towards me reluctantly. How are you? Don't act like a shrew right from the start. Backstabber and I are not at all what you think. We are here because. Traitorous. Apologize. Backstabber frowned. Traitorous paused again. And then took a deep breath as if he had suffered a great humiliation. Fine, whatever, well sigh. It was wrong of me to hit you. And I apologize to you. But you hit Backstabber first. I've apologized to you. Phoenix. And you also need to apologize to Backstabber. I confronted Traitorous for a full few minutes. But he was like a teenager, insisting that I apologize to Backstabber. And Backstabber, like someone dealing with a child, apologized to me on his behalf. Phoenix. Don't be too hard on Traitorous. He really didn't mean it. He's just, you know. He can be stubborn sometimes and can't think things through right away. Don't hold it against him. After saying that, she turned serious and looked at Traitorous. Traitorous. Apologize to Phoenix. Hurry up. Looking at Backstabber like this, I just felt a chill in my heart. I said. Backstabber. Does it make you feel really good to be in charge of Traitorous like this? What? Backstabber was taken aback. I picked up the bag on the ground slowly and calmly. Making Traitorous listen to you in everything, big or small. Does it give you a great sense of accomplishment? Backstabber looked at me without saying a word. Traitorous took a step forward. And a look of panic flashed in his eyes. Phoenix. Listen to me. I raised my hand to stop Traitorous from approaching. From now on, stop being sneaky. We're getting a divorce. I carried my bag and walked out of the room. Phoenix. Phoenix. Oh. Traitorous. Hurry up. Go after Phoenix and don't let her misunderstand us. Okay. Ouch. What's wrong with you, Backstabber? It's nothing. I just sprained my ankle. Ouch. I'll take you to the hospital first. No. You better go after Phoenix first. Hurry up. Once Phoenix finds out that you took me to the hospital, she'll throw a fit again. Oh, come on. Why are you still saying this at a time like this? Traitorous didn't come after me. I sneered and contacted my classmate. Traitorous is a lawyer. And I'm not sure I won't suffer losses in this divorce battle. I can only find a professional. In the middle of the night, my phone received a photo sent by Backstabber. showing Traitorous accompanying her in the hospital. Before she could retract it, I quickly took a screenshot and saved it. Similarly, as friends for many years, Backstabber knows me. I also know her. She knows that after what happened tonight, there's no future between us. So she simply wanted to provoke me, hoping that I would completely break up with Traitorous. After saving the picture, I immediately contacted the security guards of the apartment. Using the excuse that I had lost a pet, I started checking the surveillance footage of the apartment. Since Traitorous rented my apartment, he has gone there almost every few days. In the videos, Backstabber also goes there almost every day. Even on my birthday. I can see that after they celebrated my birthday with me, one said they had to go home to take care of the children, and the other said they had to work overtime at the company. But 10 minutes later, both of them appeared in the apartment elevator again. On the surface, they didn't make any excessive moves. They even went upstairs one after the other. But so what? From the moment they appeared in the apartment, they were no longer innocent. I've never been someone who can swallow my pride and tolerate injustice. I can't stand any betrayal. Otherwise, after getting married, Traitorous and I wouldn't have almost broken up. If it weren't for Backstabber's earnest persuasion, and if Traitorous hadn't really changed, our marriage wouldn't have lasted until now. But this is exactly the thing that makes me feel the most disgusted. There must have been something going on between Backstabber and Traitorous at that time. Otherwise, Traitorous wouldn't have said that he didn't get a divorce because he listened to Backstabber. Now that I think about it, it should be that Backstabber was just pregnant at that time, and she didn't want a divorce. Naturally, having so wide sigh, she didn't want Traitorous to divorce me either. I don't know what her intentions were. Maybe she thought the love of a married man was more exciting? Or maybe she also wanted a divorce at that time but didn't because of the child. But seeing that Traitorous earned more than her husband, and seeing that Traitorous really listened to her and treated me better than before, she started to feel unbalanced. So she instigated Traitorous to deliberately rent that apartment. I even suspect that Backstabber deliberately asked Traitorous to rent that apartment so that after she got a divorce, she could deliberately let me find that place. After a fight, Traitorous could smoothly divorce me. She thought that since she was going to get a divorce, there was no need for my marriage with Traitorous to exist anymore. It's just that she didn't expect that I would discover that place in advance. I found that place before she successfully divorced her husband. I have to admire Backstabber's scheming. Since that's the case, how can I let her have her way? When Traitorous came back, it was already the next morning. As soon as he opened the door, he saw the elders of both families sitting around in the house. And everything in the house that had been smashed. He paused for a moment, looked at me with red eyes, who was like a madman, and then sat down in silence. "You ungrateful child." His mother gave Traitorous a hard punch. I insisted on getting a divorce. The parents of both families took turns to persuade me. But I was hysterical and brought up the matter of Traitorous renting the house and being with Backstabber. And I pointed out that all the gifts I had received in the past few years were prepared for me by Traitorous on the advice of another woman. Traitorous didn't really care about me in his heart. My hysteria made the elders of both sides criticize Traitorous again. Traitorous originally didn't admit it. But when I showed the chat records between me and Backstabber about the gifts, Traitorous was left speechless. I insisted on getting a divorce. And I was even willing to leave the marriage without taking anything. I just wanted to divorce Traitorous. And I didn't want anything else. Maybe he was intimidated by my resolute attitude. Traitorous swore to the heavens that he rented the house just because he wanted his own space. He absolutely had nothing going on with Backstabber. I was skeptical. I couldn't understand why Backstabber was also there. Traitorous said that Backstabber and her husband often quarreled and had nowhere to vent. She knew that he had a private space. So she went there. But Traitorous promised that he absolutely, definitely, having fulfilled my obsessor, positively had nothing going on with Backstabber in that house. When he rented the house, he never thought that Backstabber would go there. Otherwise, as a lawyer, he wouldn't be so stupid as to rent my house and then bring a woman back. The parents of both sides also tried to persuade me. I hesitated. Seeing that my attitude was softening, Traitorous started picking me up and dropping me off at work every day. And he promised that he would definitely never have any contact with Backstabber again. He even transferred Backstabber's divorce case to his colleague. For more than a month, our relationship was still strained. When Traitorous saw that I started packing up the things at home and preparing to move out, he stopped me again, looking irritated. This time, he transferred all of our property to my name within a day, including all the savings and real estate. My parents also came over and gave me a good scolding in front of Traitorous. I was pressured by my family, but I was still unwilling. Traitorous gritted his teeth, wrote a statement that all the property was a gift, and had it notarized. "You silly girl. Stop making a fuss. Traitorous treats you so well. Where else can you find a man who treats you this well if you get a divorce? He didn't do anything wrong. He just got a little too close to a female friend and crossed the line a bit. He already knows he's wrong. What else do you want?" I cried for 2 days and had a good talk with Traitorous. I was willing to let go of everything in the past, but I demanded that Traitorous never contact Backstabber again. Otherwise we would get a divorce. Traitorous nodded eagerly. After that day, I tried my best to put away my cold expression. Although I still couldn't accept Traitorous's touch, I no longer lost my temper hysterically. Traitorous could feel my change and paid even more attention to me. "Phoenix, having so filled my sigh. Here. This is your favorite garlic shrimp." Traitorous put a peeled shrimp into my bowl. I paused for a moment and then pushed the shrimp aside. His face froze for a moment, and he quickly covered it up. I sneered inwardly. It seems that Traitorous has been too idle recently. I have to find something for him to do. That night, I sent the video of Backstabber entering and leaving that apartment to her husband. After what happened last time, Backstabber really seemed to have cut off contact with Traitorous. That's why Traitorous has been behaving himself by my side these days. It's really annoying. But what if Backstabber is in a difficult situation? I don't believe she can hold back from looking for Traitorous. I also don't believe that after missing Backstabber for so many years, Traitorous can bear not to look for her. Sure enough, after only 3 or 4 days, Traitorous didn't come to pick me up from work. "Wife, my aunt's son is getting engaged in the neighboring city. Do you want to come with me?" My mother-in-law's distant cousin, whom Traitorous calls aunt, a relative we rarely have contact with, and he, a big lawyer, wants to go in person. I won't go. Come back early. Okay. I'll come back as soon as the wedding banquet is over. When he arrived there, Traitorous seemed to want to reassure me, so he sent me several videos of the wedding banquet scene. I didn't even open them to watch. I didn't care either. Traitorous came back on time that day. He even brought me specialties from the neighboring city. It seemed there was nothing unusual. And he still picked me up and dropped me off at work every day. Seeing that Traitorous was behaving himself again, I couldn't help but think that Backstabber's husband was too useless. So I simply sent him the video I took when they opened the door in the apartment that day. I turned off the power switch that day, so when they opened the door, I turned on the flashlight on my phone. They thought I did it to see things more clearly. In fact, I did it to take a clearer picture. Traitorous was okay, dressed quite neatly, but Backstabber behind him was only wearing a bathrobe. Presumably, Backstabber's husband should thank me when he receives this video. Unexpectedly, having fulfilled Leah, less than half an hour after I sent the video, Traitorous burst into the place where I work. In front of everyone in the office, he swept all the things on my desk to the ground. His face was red with anger, and his outstretched finger was almost poking into my eyes in a hysterical manner. "Phoenix. That's enough. You've really gone too far. Just because of some baseless charges, you make a scene and act willfully. I've endured it all. But why do you keep dragging Backstabber into this again and again? Why? Tell me. Why?" In a fit of anger, Traitorous took a step forward, grabbed my collar, and raised his other hand as if he was about to hit me. I picked up the glass on the desk and smashed it hard on his head. The glass shattered as soon as it hit, and blood flowed down his forehead. Beep, weep, beep, weep, beep. The instrument beside the bed rang mechanically. I was sitting by the bed peeling an apple. I felt the person on the bed move. So I looked up. Traitorous had already opened his eyes and was staring straight at me. I used a fruit knife to cut off a piece of the apple pulp and stuffed it into my mouth. "You're awake?" Traitorous glanced at me but didn't say anything. I actually have a bit of a bad temper. I stood up and slapped him hard. The people in the neighboring hospital beds were startled by me and all subconsciously turned to look. I shook my hand and sat down again. Then I took out a piece of paper from my bag and carefully wiped my fingers clean. Traitorous had a thick bandage wrapped around his forehead. He covered his face and looked at me in disbelief. "Are you crazy?" I cut a piece from the peeled apple and held it to Traitorous's mouth. He tightly closed his mouth and looked at me furiously. I raised my hand. Traitorous subconsciously opened his mouth. "That's a good boy." I stuffed a piece of the apple pulp into Traitorous's mouth. The rest of the apple. I threw it into the trash can. Traitorous frowned and looked at me without speaking. After a long while, he let out a sigh. "Phoenix. I really didn't expect you." Slap. I slapped him again. I looked at Traitorous coldly. "Speak properly." Traitorous sat on the bed, covering his face and glaring at me fiercely. "Phoenix. Are you fucking crazy?" I sneered, and directly swept all the things on the bedside table onto the ground. Not feeling satisfied with that, I took my bat and started hitting Traitorous on the head and face. Traitorous sat on the hospital bed and could only raise his hands to protect his face tightly. "Phoenix. I think you're really crazy." "Crazy?" I picked up a chair and was about to smash it at Traitorous, but was quickly stopped by the relatives of the patient in the next bed. I waved my hand to indicate that I was okay. After the people retreated, I sat down again and looked at Traitorous and said, "What's wrong? Didn't you tell me that you had no contact with Backstabber anymore? Weren't all the contact information blocked? Speak. Since you've already broken off contact, why did you go crazy at the place where I work today?" My hysteria made Traitorous fall silent. He paused for a moment before saying, "If you hadn't targeted Backstabber, why would she have contacted me?" Saying this, Traitorous seemed to immediately become righteous. "If you hadn't deliberately sent those things to Backstabber's husband, she wouldn't have lost the custody of her child and most of her property." "Phoenix. She's your best friend. Is this how you treat her?" I couldn't help laughing. Oh, so you still know she's my best friend? Why didn't you think of me when you were having an affair with her? I told you that I was innocent with her in that apartment and never did anything to betray you. Over the years, you've been being unreasonable and throwing tantrums. Every time, it was Backstabber who persuaded me not to divorce you. You're repaying her kindness with ingratitude." I sneered. "You didn't sleep together in that apartment. What about before?" "What? I mean, what about before? Before Backstabber got pregnant? Before she gave birth to the child? What about when we were having the worst fights?" Traitorous seemed to be stunned for a moment as if he thought of something. I sneered. "As expected. In the year when we had the worst quarrel, he wanted to divorce me. It should be that Backstabber was pregnant at that time. Traitorous's business startup hadn't taken off yet at that time, and Backstabber didn't want to divorce her husband for him. So she didn't allow him to divorce me either. He listened to Backstabber." "You bitch." I rushed up and slapped him twice more. This time, the people in the next bed didn't come to stop me again. When I looked over, they even gave me a thumbs up. Traitorous's face swelled up. I was also tired from hitting him. "Feels great. Doesn't it?" He subconsciously looked up at me. "You met each other again and again in my name. It must have felt great when you were having an affair, right? Did you think I was stupid in your heart? Were you really excited when you were having an affair behind my back?" Huh? Traitorous paused and said with difficulty, "It was only once. After that, we never crossed the line again." "Once? Huh. A person is already tainted. Is there any difference between once and multiple times? It's like you only find out much later that the bowl you used for eating had been used to hold excrement. Does it make any difference whether it was used once or twice? No, as long as it has been used for that. It makes people feel disgusted and want to vomit." I rushed up like a madman and started hitting Traitorous's face again. This time, I was pulled apart by the nurse who came over upon hearing the commotion. Because the needle attached to his hand had been pulled out when he made a dodging motion just now. The nurse gave us a stern lecture. After the nurse left, I picked up my bag. Before going out, I looked at Traitorous coldly. You don't think that after you two disgusted me again and again, I'll let you off so easily, do you? 20 Traitorous was greatly alarmed. What do you want to do? I smiled, picked up my bag, and left without looking back. After leaving the room, I put away the angry look on my face. I opened my phone and sent the recording I just took to Backstabber's husband. Vindicator. I want Backstabber to leave the marriage with nothing. Soon, when say, Backstabber was defeated. She quickly went through the divorce procedures with Vindicator. She almost left the marriage with nothing. Even the custody of the child was in Vindicator's hands. During the month when they were going through the divorce, I didn't take any action. And Traitorous and I were in a cold war and hardly spoke to each other. After Vindicator told me that he and Backstabber had obtained the divorce certificate, with the mediation of my father-in-law, Traitorous and I went to my mother's place for a meal. Traitorous had been ignored by me for a month. He originally thought I was going to divorce him. But then I suddenly softened my attitude. He was really confused. I had a good talk with him again. I asked him, didn't he promise me that he wouldn't contact Backstabber anymore? Why did they get in touch again? Traitorous truthfully said that Backstabber had taken the initiative to contact him. I asked again. Backstabber also went to the wedding banquet last time, right? Traitorous was silent for a moment and then nodded. But he swore that he really wouldn't contact Backstabber anymore in the future. But he also begged me not to go after Backstabber anymore. After all, we used to be good friends. I responded meaningfully. And I showed off our affection in a high-profile way in my WeChat moments. On my 28th birthday, I held a large bouquet of roses given by Traitorous and took a selfie of the two of us. And I added the caption, "The years are quiet and good." Then Traitorous and I went on a trip to 2 cities. Finally, Kevin fulfilled me. On the day we came back from the trip, Traitorous found an excuse to go out again. This time, I didn't need to take any action at all. The next day, my phone received a series of pictures sent from an unfamiliar phone number. In the pictures, Traitorous was shirtless and passionately kissing a woman on the bed, although the woman's face was deliberately covered due to the angle. The rose tattoo on her back shoulder still allowed me to tell at a glance that it was Backstabber. Before the pictures were withdrawn, I quickly took screenshots and saved them. Well, it worked. I was in a great mood and opened a bottle of Lafite for myself and toasted to myself. Congratulations. Before I could send the divorce agreement to Traitorous, after waiting for 2 days and seeing that I didn't take any action, Backstabber finally came to find me in person. She blocked me in the parking lot downstairs of my company. You clearly know that I've slept with Traitorous. And it wasn't just once. Right? So what? Why haven't you divorced him yet? I know you. Once you know that Traitorous is tainted, you won't be able to live with him anymore. But why are you still holding on to him? Why? Slap. I slapped her hard. There was almost a fierce fire in Backstabber's eyes. You clearly know that he can't let me go. You clearly know that he'll come running as soon as I crook my finger. Why haven't you divorced him yet? Why? I slowly took out the notarized gift certificate from Traitorous. Of course. I'm doing it for this. Although Traitorous had made a notarization, there was a precondition for giving all his property to me. The precondition was that if he committed the same mistake again. If he didn't make the mistake, how could the money end up in my hands? If Backstabber didn't get a divorce, if Backstabber didn't press on step by step and play tricks, how could Traitorous make the mistake again? What is this? Backstabber snatched the copy from me. After she learned that Traitorous had given all his things to me, she started laughing nervously. So, you did it on purpose? You deliberately sent those videos to my ex-husband. You deliberately made me leave the marriage with nothing. Deliberately made me lose my composure. And deliberately made me sleep with Traitorous. I shook my head. No. No, no. Don't make excuses for yourself. These were all the choices you and Traitorous made yourselves. I just gave your husband a hand and also stood on the side of justice to let your husband know who you really are. However, you two really didn't disappoint me. TSK. TSK. You're simply rotten to the core. The last sentence almost drove Backstabber crazy. She stopped pretending. Phoenix. Who do you think you are? Do you think Traitorous didn't divorce you because he loves you? If I hadn't stopped him again and again, he would have divorced you long ago. He's already had enough of you. Do you think we only slept together twice? Do you think we really didn't do anything in that apartment? On your birthday, when you went back to your parents' home, and even on the day your grandmother passed away. We did it. We did it all. I clenched my fists tightly. I thought I had already given up on him. I thought that after so many months of reflection, I had already seen Traitorous clearly. But when I heard that he had come to have an affair with Backstabber on the day my grandmother passed away, I still felt a sharp pain in my heart. I was raised by my grandmother since I was a child, and I was the closest to her. On the day she passed away, I couldn't stop crying and almost didn't eat for a whole day and night. It was Traitorous who saw me like that and cooked delicious food and brought it to me again and again. But unfortunately, I had no appetite. Finally, having so sold my appetite, he said he would go downstairs to buy me a bowl of preserved egg and leave me calmly. How long did he go out for that time? Half an hour? Or an hour? I can't remember anymore. But I never would have thought that Traitorous could be so despicable. I went crazy and started fighting with Backstabber. When I was at the police station, Traitorous finally rushed over. As soon as I saw him, I took off my shoes and threw them at him fiercely. Traitorous. You deserve to die. Originally, I just wanted to get a divorce smoothly and get the property. And that would be it. But now, I don't want that anymore. I sorted out all the evidence of their infidelity and sent it to Traitorous's work group and a group of his relatives and friends. It was even easier to deal with Backstabber. She was a senior executive of a training company. Previously, the indicator didn't go too far because Backstabber was the mother of the child. They just got a divorce smoothly. But seeing that she was divorced while Traitorous and I seemed to be living in peace, she was very unwilling. She approached Traitorous again. And Traitorous was like a cat that had stolen fish. He made promises to me again and again. He looked as if he loved me deeply and would reform himself for me. But every time, as soon as Backstabber beckoned, he couldn't help but rush towards her. And after Backstabber got involved with Traitorous again and saw that we didn't get a divorce for a long time, she couldn't help but come looking for trouble. However, as a teacher figure who knew about the affair and still chose to be the mistress, she was quickly fired by the training center. Especially her explosive remarks and the parking lot downstairs were even posted online by someone. She was completely socially ostracized. Traitorous wasn't having an easy time either. Although he was a senior partner, his moral conduct was lacking. And he was soon kicked out of the law firm. Then, wet on a low sigh, I filed for divorce. He originally didn't want to get a divorce. But his parents were highly educated people, and it was obvious that what Traitorous had done had spread in their social circle. In order to minimize the losses, they still pressured Traitorous to divorce me. All the property that he had promised and notarized before belonged to me. In this marriage, it seemed that I had won. I got all the property, but I also lost completely. Although after learning about their relationship, most of my hysterical behavior was faked. It was just a scheme to make Traitorous think that I loved him deeply and couldn't live without him. But I went through the processes of being sad, breaking down, and healing myself one by one. Only I know the bitterness, sweetness, soreness, and spiciness among them. I had a hard time. And I also denied myself, but I got through it all. Because I know, I must look forward. Don't look back. The end.